Good evening. Our many thanks to Fringe PVD, the Providence Fringe Festival, for doing their part to creatively present live music theater despite this COVID-19 pandemic. As you can see, we are situated in a studio miles away from you. We've even put our lead performers in isolation booths, and we are doing our best to maintain proper COVID protocols. Tonight, you're going to hear a story about two artists who discovered that while art may be enough to sustain a relationship, art alone may not be enough to sustain a friendship. There were once two painters, and their names were Camille and Edgar. Those of you who follow art know them as Degas and Pissarro, two of the founding members of the Impressionist art movement. Sometime in the mid-1800s, these two young artists living in Paris met and discovered their shared passion for art. It's likely that they met in a studio art class in Paris sometime in the late 1860s or early 1870s.
Hello, sir. Your work in this studio is the only art that matters here, besides my own. You understand light and color in ways that I have seen only in a few artists. Permit me to introduce myself. I am Edgar Degas.
Why, thank you. My name is Camille Pissarro, and funny thing, I'm drawn to your work.
Camille Pissarro. Interesting name. You're not from Paris, are you?
No, I'm from the Caribbean. I was born on St. Thomas.
Ah, St. Thomas. Yes, interesting. I've heard of it. Funny. My mother is from that part of the world, the city of New Orleans. You know what they say about New Orleans? It's the Caribbean's most northern city. I envy you. I have always wanted to visit there, see what my mother managed to escape by coming to Paris. St. Thomas, that's a Danish colony, yes? Pissarro doesn't sound particularly Danish.
Pissarro, it's a Jewish name. But I am in Paris now, and while I was born a Jew, I left all that behind in the synagogue on St. Thomas. France is the land of liberty, equality, and fraternity. Edgar, I must confide to you that I have little room in my heart for organized religion and its control over people. I agree with what my friend Émile Zola says: civilization will not attain to its perfection until the last stone from the last church falls on the last priest.
Be careful in whom you confide, my new friend. I am a Catholic, and I still attend Mass.
My apologies. Your art is so forward-thinking, I just assumed. Although I do not believe, I don't stand in the way of those who do. Then we will confine our conversations to that which matters most to us.
What do you mean?
To sharing ideas about art.
Ah, that won't be hard. There is no one else in this room, besides me, who is trying to play with shadow and light in quite as daring a fashion as you are.
Tell me, have you seen the works of Turner?
When I go to New Orleans, the city of my mother's birth, I hope to paint outdoors, like Turner. I hope that I can capture some of the color and shadow and mystery that he has seen in the outdoors.
Degas had his wish only a few years later when he visited New Orleans in 1872. Edgar spent several months in New Orleans before returning to Paris and painted one of his early great pieces, an image of the New Orleans Cotton Exchange. Every song you hear tonight was taken directly from the letters written by Camille Pissarro and Edgar Degas. What we sing is what they wrote. We're now coming up on our first song for the evening. The first time Degas mentions Pissarro in any of his writings, they were still young men. It's from even before the beginning of the Impressionist movement. It is in a letter about the moment when Edgar Degas first arrived in New Orleans, and in it we get his first impressions of America and how it triggered in his mind his friend Camille Pissarro. 2, 3, 4.
excellent journey. New York has some charming spots. We spent scarcely 2 days there. Charming spots that Monet and Pissarro would have made something of. What a degree of civilization. Steamers from Europe arrive like omnibuses at the station. Charming spots that Monet and Pissarro would have made something of. We pass carriages, even trains on the water. It's England in her best mood. Charming spots that Monet and Pissarro would have made something of. Spots that Monet and Pissarro would have made something of. Charming spots that Monet and Pissarro would have made something of. Charming spots that Monet and Pissarro would have made something of.
Degas and Pissarro are unquestionably best known as the founders of the Impressionist art movement. Their art was featured in a series of 8 legendary exhibitions that took place in Paris between 1874 and 1886 that defined and established this movement. Pissarro exhibited his work in all 8 of the exhibitions, and Degas exhibited his work in all but 1. Both artists were active behind the scenes in the recruitment and the organization of the artists for the exhibitions.
Do you remember that time we were arguing with Manet over whether we should exhibit that painting by Szlamowicz?
I made him furious, didn't I?
It was over La Grande Jatte.
Yes, I explained to Manet, who probably didn't understand anything I said, that Seurat has something new to contribute which the rest of the committee is unable to appreciate. I told him that I am personally convinced of the progressive character of his art, and I am certain that in time it will yield extraordinary results.
Manet was beside himself.
You, Degas, are 100 times more loyal.
Why, thank you for noticing, my good sir. Yes, as I recall, I was quite interested in the painting, except the thing, it is so big.
For a time in 1880, the artists planned to publish a journal of prints with their friend and fellow artist, Marie Cassatt.
Edgar, this idea of yours, it's a great plan. We will revive the spirit of Rembrandt and publish a journal of original etchings. You know how fascinated I am by technique. The public will love it. Art in a book that is affordable.
Yes, yes. But if this project is going to be a success, we will need to become more comfortable with this medium.
I agree. The entire process of engraving and etching presents so many challenges. I'm excited by the possibilities that this method presents, but I need to know more. I want to get even better at the process. Take a look at the sample etchings I've sent you. Let me know what you think.
My dear Pissarro, I compliment you on your enthusiasm. Here are the proofs. The gray shade comes from the zinc and retains the printer's black. I feel sure that you have not the same facilities as at the Rue de la Huchette. In spite of that, you must have something a bit more polished. In any case, you can see what possibilities there are in the method. There are in the method. In any case, you can see what possibilities there are in the method. There are in the method. La 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 in the method. La 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 la. La 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 in the method. La 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 la. It's necessary for you to practice dusting the particles to obtain a sky of a uniform black, smooth and fine. This is the method. Take a very smooth plate, degrease it thoroughly with whitening. Previously, you have prepared a solution of rosin in very concentrated alcohol. In any case, you can see what possibilities there are in the method. There are in the method. In any place, you can see what possibilities there are in the method. There are in the method. La 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 in the method. La 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 la. La 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 in the method. La 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 la. Let me explain further. Break it down for you, as it were. This liquid, poured after the manner of photographers when they pour collodion onto their glass plates, take care as they do to drain the plate well by inclining it. This liquid then evaporates and leaves the plate covered with a coating more or less thick of small particles of rosin. In allowing it to bite, you obtain a network of lines, deeper or less deep. To obtain equal hues, this is necessary. To get less regular effect, you can obtain them with a stump or with your finger or any other pressure on the paper. What did you blacken your ground with to get that bistre tone behind the drawing? It's very pretty. Try something a little larger with a better plate. With regard to the color, I shall have your next lot printed in colored ink. I also have other ideas for colored plates. So, do also try something a little more finished. It would be delightful to see the outlines of the cabbages very defined. Remember that you must make your debut with one or two very beautiful plates, each compliment you on the quality of the art of your vegetable gardens. I am also going to get down to it in a day or two, only as soon as you feel a little more accustomed, try on a larger scale. In any case, you can see what possibilities there are in the method. There are in the method. In any case, you can see what possibilities there are in the method. There are in the method. In any case, you can see what possibilities there are in the method. There are in the method. In any case, you can see what possibilities there are in the method. There are in the method. La 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 in the method. La 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 la. La 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 in the method. La 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 la.
Degas never finished any of the prints that he said he would contribute to this project. In the end, the journal was never published. That was something I could not afford. Over and over, I could not find buyers for my work. In 1889, I had a moment of crisis. It was yet another moment when money continued to be tight. The Exposition Universelle in Paris was supposed to bring in new customers for art, but I had no sales. I needed to share my worries with someone, but who? Who would listen to me? Edgar?
I have money troubles of my own. So many members of my family are reaching out and expecting me to support them with my art.
In the end, I summed up what was in my head and heart in a letter to my niece, Esther. My dear Esther, I've had to write to you for a long time, but I was prevented by so many troubles and bothers. You wouldn't believe the state of discouragement I find myself, me and mine. Business is terrible, and the exposition has added to the tension. I have to stay in Paris to have my eye taken care of, so I can't work. Even if I could, what good would it bring? So I'm waiting here for sheer luck to decide if I'll be able to get on with my projects. You always need to jump over barriers. I must say, so far, my jumping has been rather off. This could be one of the causes of my bad luck. This could be one of the causes of my bad luck. My bad luck. My bad luck. Everywhere around me I see mediocrity. But still some superior minds have managed to be noticed. I wonder how those have succeeded in being even slightly understood. It's a great mystery for me. Really, I must be some kind of talentless idiot. Maybe it's some deficiency in my brain. After all, it's not impossible, as your brother Fred suggested, unless it's just my contemporaries who don't understand me. Whichever it is, it's not fun. This could be one of the causes of my bad luck. This could be one of the causes of my bad luck. My bad luck. My bad luck. It must have to do with race. It must have to do with race. So far, no Jew has tried to produce art here. No Jew, no Jew, no Jew, no Jew has tried to produce art here. At least heartfelt and selfless art. Heartfelt and selfless art. Heartfelt and selfless art. This could be one of the causes of my bad luck. This could be one of the causes of my bad luck. 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 my bad luck continued. If anything, it got worse. Sales continued to be slow, and the mood of France started to change as well.
It all began in 1894 when the newspapers reported that Alfred Dreyfus, a Jewish officer in the French army, was court-martialed for espionage and treason. He was sent to prison on Devil's Island in French Guiana. Over time, his
Guilt.
Innocence.
became clear, and evidence was brought forward that another officer, Ferdinand Esterhazy, was actually the one responsible for the crimes. The upper echelon of the French army attempted to suppress this evidence. This led to daily stories in the press. The anti-Dreyfus press was particularly offensive, vitriolic, and outright anti-Semitic. Edgar Degas supported the government and the French military. He had served in the French army during the Franco-Prussian War. One story circulated that he took out a subscription to the anti-Dreyfus newspaper, La Libre Parole, and that at breakfast he would have his maid, Zoe, read aloud to him the latest articles.
What is the exact meaning of the frantic campaign organized by the Jewry of the entire world in order to panic France, dishonor the French army, and thereby make us incapable of playing a role in Europe? This campaign means quite simply that the combination of interests which make up Jewry has chosen to oppose France, pushes for the destruction of France, and finds in its interest that France ceases to be a European great power. If the circumstances were such that I was invested with an authority which would permit me to save my country, I would turn the leading Jews and their accomplices over to a court-martial, which would have them shot. But on theoretical
Thank you, Zoe. Thank you. What is France coming to? Please prepare my bags. Tomorrow I am off for my annual summer visit to the thermal springs at Montor. I will soak in the healing bath waters and breathe in the humid air, taking up, that treatment they call inhalation. I could use the time for some rest, rejuvenation, and who knows, perhaps even some time to catch up on some overdue correspondence with my closest friends. Give your regards to Talmer at 7 o'clock sharp. I will give your regards to Talmer at 7 o'clock sharp. During the inhalation. You will have time to spare for me during the day. You will have time to spare for me during the day. In the inhalation. You will have time for anti-Semitic conversation. He will have time for anti-Semitic conversation. During the inhalation, table on my right sits Monsieur Levy. At the table on my right sits Monsieur Levy. During the inhalation, anti-Semitic conversation.
Degas may have shared his anti-Semitic attitudes with some of his friends, but in his letters to Lucien and others, Pissarro often mentions conversations with Degas about matters regarding art and the business of art well into the darkest days of the Dreyfus Affair.
Camille, I was at Rewald's gallery. I heard a rumor. What news do you have about your son, Felix?
Edgar, I wish it wasn't so, but the news... He was visiting my oldest son, his brother Lucien, in England when he contracted tuberculosis. The doctors are not giving him long to live.
I never had any children. I have relatives who ask me for money, but no children of my own. I cannot even begin to imagine what you are going through.
Thank you, Edgar. The doctors say it is now just a matter of time. What's got me most concerned is my son, Lucien. He's just gotten over a serious brain illness, and I don't know how to tell him the news.
The news went from sad to tragic. On December 15, 1897, Pissarro's son, Felix, whose family nickname was Titi, succumbed to tuberculosis and died.
My dear Lucien, I have had no news of you told me your mother has been to see you and found you improved. I am so anguished about you. I would be happy to learn that you are beginning to busy yourself with some little problems. It's great consolation to be occupied with something. It is, incidentally, what I force myself to do here. I try to work. I want you to wrap yourself up in art. 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 My dear Lucien, I received your letter. I can't tell you how glad I am to see that you have been able to brave the disastrous news of the death of our poor Titi, your brother, whom we loved so much, our hope and pride. We were afraid to inform you and didn't know how to conceal our great grief from you. But in such fatal circumstances, we have to be resigned and think of those who are around us. To give way to discouragement would be totally dangerous, and we must surmount what we could not prevent, my dear Lucien. Oh, let us work. That will dress our wounds. I wish you strength. I wish you strength. I want you to wrap yourself up in art. 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 I forgot to mention that I found a room in the Grand Hôtel du Louvre with the superb view of the avenue. It is very beautiful to paint. I am delighted to paint these Paris streets, so silvery, luminous, and vital. They are so different from the boulevards. This is completely modern. I show in April. Wrap yourself up in art. 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 I want you to wrap yourself up in art. Wrap yourself up in art. Wrap yourself up in art. Wrap yourself up in art.
January 1898 was one of the peak periods of press around the Dreyfus affair. 2 weeks earlier, the French journalist and novelist Émile Zola had published his article, J'accuse, in which he charged the French government and military with framing Dreyfus for anti-Semitic reasons.
When Zola's piece was published, I bought extra copies of the paper and sent the story to my son Lucien and other relatives.
But many of your friends turned on you.
I heard the painter Guillaumin say that if Dreyfus had been shot at once, people would have been spared all this commotion. And that at the gallery of Durand Ruel, where my work is always on display, everyone took this view except for the doorman. The affair affects me every day in large and small ways. My son Lucien recently completed a book of prints, and he's looking for artists to endorse it. I gave Lucien a list of names, but that list is shrinking. Every day it seems another old friend becomes anti-Dreyfus and reveals their true colors. I'd suggested, for example, my longtime friend Joris Karl Huysmans, and now it isn't clear where he stands. Is he a supporter of Dreyfus? Or has he espoused the propaganda of the French Catholic Church, who are in league with the military and the government to hide Dreyfus's innocence? My dear Lucien, the papers report that Huysmans has entered the religious fold. So keep your book for someone else, another invalid. Keep your book for someone else, another invalid. I ran into Blanche. He's religious and anti-Semitic. Religious and anti-Semitic. He seeks to revive what was so well done when it was believed in. But today this has no use for anyone. Yes, it has for deceiving simpletons. We shall see many like them, all those who turned up their noses and who have nothing inside. We shall see others like them, all those who turned up their noses and who have nothing inside. Nothing inside, 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 nothing inside. Nothing inside, 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 nothing inside.
In the fall of 1898, Pissarro was renting a room at the Hotel du Louvre and painting the streets of Paris.
But this wasn't the Paris of my younger years. The Dreyfus affair has taken its toll in the city. It isn't safe for Jews, even assimilated Jews like myself. I had business to conduct at the gallery of Durand-Ruel, and every time I ventured there, I risked encountering the mobs. My dear Lucien, you need not worry about my safety here. For the moment, we have to deal with nothing more than a few Catholic Latin Quarter ruffians favored by the government. They shout down with the Jews, but all they do is shout. They shout down with the Jews, but all they do is shout. Yesterday, about 5 o'clock, while on my way to Durand-Ruel, I found myself in the middle of a gang of ruffians. They shouted death to the Jews, down with Zola. They shouted death to the Jews, down with Zola. we passed through them and reached the Rue Lafitte. They had not even taken me for a Jew. France is really sick. Will she recover? We shall see. After Zola's trial, despite the grave turn of affairs in Paris, despite all the anxieties, I must work at my window as if nothing has happened. Let us hope. Let us hope. Let us hope. It will end happily.
So right about here in our story, an incident took place which, if I were ready to make the leap, would take this story we've been telling you tonight from fact to fiction. Because something happened one day early in 1899, and we don't know what. So anything I tell you about it, I would have to make up. The only thing we can be sure of is that once that day was over, our two protagonists never spoke a word to one another again for the rest of their lives. Here's what we do know. At the peak of the Dreyfus affair, Pissarro and Degas saw one another in person at the gallery opening of one of Degas' pupils in January 1899. But what happened that day? What did Degas say to Pissarro? What did Pissarro say to Degas? What did they say to each other that brought them to the unimaginable place in their relationship where they would never speak to one another again? What were their last words to one another? Did either one of them get to end this friendship with a clever bon mot? We just don't know. No one else was in the room when it happened. We could imagine, perhaps, that their conversation was inspired by a recent article by Jean Ajalbert that was published on the front page of Le Droit de l'Homme that revealed Degas' anti-Semitic beliefs for all who read it. According to the article,
when a model in his studio expressed doubt of Dreyfus's guilt, Degas screamed at her.
You are Jewish. You are Jewish!
But I am Protestant.
Never mind. Get dressed and get out!
Ajalbert then wryly observed, "That is what I call conviction." I like that. Poor Degas. How stupid intelligent people can become out of anti-Semitism.
the very next day after it was published, Pissarro sent a copy of the article to his son, Lucien.
Less than a month after that, I told the artist Paul Signac that since the anti-Semitic incidents, Degas and Renoir shun me and no longer greet me. Signac looked at me and said, "What can be taking place in the minds of such intelligent men that leads them to be so stupid?"
And so here we are. We've come to the moment that I told you about when we began our story. The moment where these two founders of the Impressionist movement and colleagues for over 25 years never spoke to one another again for the rest of their lives. You might think, then, that we have come to the end of this play. But our story doesn't end here. You see, after receiving word of Camille Pissarro's death, Edgar Degas sat down and wrote 2 letters. One was to Pissarro's son, Lucien. In it, he wrote,
I was in bed Sunday, dear sir, and I could not go to take the last trip with your poor father. For a long time we did not see each other, but what memories I have of our old comradeship. Tell your family that I sadly shake their hand.
But the other letter, the letter which will be our final song for this evening, stands in stark contrast to the letter he sent to the Pissarro family. It was written to Degas' friend and associate, Henri Rewald. And with this letter, we are left to puzzle what friendship means, and certainly what it ended up meaning to Degas. If they were such good friends, if their work meant so much to each other, how could that friendship have been destroyed by politics? When you hear Degas describe his dream, it seems clear that Pissarro still meant something to Degas, that there were still feelings that ran deep and would forever be unresolved.
So he has passed away, the poor old wandering Jew. He will walk no more. 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 And if I'd been warned, I would have certainly walked a little behind him. He will walk no more. 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 What did he think since that whole sordid affair? What did he think of the embarrassment he caused us? Did he ever bring it up with you? What went on inside that old Israelitic head of his? He will walk no more. 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 Did did he think only of going back to the times when we were more or less, unaware of his terrible race. We shall speak of this again in person. He will walk no more. He will walk no more. He will walk no more. The poor old wandering Jew. I went to Lacu on Wednesday, and I recounted a strange dream. A dream I had 2 days after learning about his death. Seeing him in my dream with a little more hair. It was so real. It was so real. I had the presence of mind to stop myself right before saying to him, "Hey, I thought you were dead." Even as we dream. En entendant qu'on rêve la mémoire, so we keep our memories in our dreams. La mémoire, so we still remember as we dream. En entendant qu'on rêve la mémoire, so memory doesn't sleep. En entendant qu'on rêve la mémoire, so we keep our memories in